I do want to turn, Brianna, just for a moment to an executive order signed this week by the president calling for the removal of transgender troops from the military. The Secretary of Defense now has 30 days to present a plan on how to implement this executive order. So Brianna, what are the ramifications of this?
Well, I think it's really straightforward. You have people that made a commitment to their country and to serve, and that commitment is not being honored on the other side. I think one of the big problems here is you're essentially sending a signal to trans people that we're not fit to serve our country. A lot of Trump's language around this was just remarkably divisive and cruel from my point of view, saying that there's no honesty in being a trans person. Yeah, I can tell you it takes a tremendous amount of honesty about who you are and who you feel you are to publicly transition. It's the scariest thing you're ever going to do. And, I think that my big point with this is not just about the military. I think my politics on this, Peter. I can work around the edges and find compromises where I can. But this is my big problem with the Republican mission on this. Right now, I feel so strongly that this fringe gender ideology has really failed trans people. It is setting us up for lives that are further away from being women or productive members of society. This entire progressive deep hole of beliefs where you're communist and all gender needs to be abolished, it's clearly not making us happy. And when I think about what let me go on a path of success, I think it was growing up in a military family. I think it was personal responsibility. I think it was valuing my marriage and stability. And what I feel is happening with all of this, Peter, is if you're not giving transgender people a path to normal lives where we can participate in American society and feel proud of our country, I think you're setting us up for lives where we have nowhere to go but this progressive fringe. And I think you almost can't blame us if we become political extremists from there, if that makes sense to you.
But Brianna, how many troops are we talking about here? I mean, how many people are right now in the military who are going to be kicked out of it as a result of this? Is that what this is going to do?
It's execution dependent, of course, right? I've seen numbers estimate around 1,500. I think, and to be really clear, Peter, there are reasonable arguments for this, right? Like if I were in a war zone tomorrow and I didn't have HRT, I'd get up every morning, I go run 5-10 miles. I would have a really hard time doing that without HRT. There are logistical things to think through here. What I'm saying is there is a political project going on right now with these executive orders towards trans people, and I think directionally is trying to push us out of public life. So on any number of these, I can sit there and go, well, I can see your point, I can compromise there. But when you add it all together, it's something I think that is really sending a message to people like me that we're not worthy of being citizens.
I would say, I would think, I totally see your point, Brianna, but I would also say, I had a dad email me and send me a screenshot. One of his sons just graduated from the Naval Academy. And Brianna, maybe you can talk to this too, but it was a screenshot of, if my roommate comes out as transgender, am I allowed to change rooms? And the policy was no. Again, if the academies and the military are taking the time out to do presentations and focus on these things. Yes, I think it's that mentality of when you're focusing on the wrong things, the outcome of real life situations, it's not going to be great.
Well, Maddie, I want to challenge you on that a little
Sure.
bit if I can. I mean, So let's, I think we just talked about how we agree the value of the military is it's a great equalizer. Yeah, you may not know this, but, when I transitioned 20 years ago, there were a ton of military people that were like 40, 50 years old that were right above me. They all joined the military because they thought it would make them a man and they could get away from those feelings. So trans people will be in the military and have always joined the military. Don't you think that's like a moment for that soldier, like the other way to go, yeah, you know what, this is my teammate and I just need to deal with it if they're taking some hormones now.
Yeah,
that seems like opposite DEI to me.
But I would say, I would think, I totally see your point, Brianna, but I would also say, if the roommate isn't comfortable with that person transitioning, let's say if it's a male dorm and his roommate is transitioning into a female, that might be uncomfortable. I mean, is there another solution that they could come up with? Can there be, like a transgender, like, can they have their own room?
Of course.
I wouldn't say like I think it's wrong to say, you're not allowed to change roommates. I think that should be an option.
Sure.
And there should be another option, afforded to the transgender, cadet or sailor or midshipman. So I think that there are options there. I don't think it has to be so black and white, but I certainly see your point.
I can compromise on any one of these policies. What I'm saying is, like, at a high level, 3,000 feet, right? If we agree that for a white Mississippian, right, that maybe has some less than gracious tendencies towards black people, right? If we agree they can go into the military and that's a good engine for them to see each other's humanity, I just don't know why that same logic doesn't apply to someone that might be trans. I agree with you. There are, it takes time to recover from some of these surgeries. HRT will change your body and your physical fitness, and there are policies in place for that. But I'm saying at a high level, I feel like we deserve the chance to serve our country. And I think, like, if you're asking the military to be their best, to bring out their best selves where they truly evaluate people by the person, I think this is an opportunity. I don't think it's like something to suffer.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that could get into an entirely, I mean, I get it, but it causes a logistical, I absolutely understand what you're saying, but then it causes a logistical effect where, again, what should the military be focused on? Because if we have a male who's transitioning into a female, then what physical test should they take? And, when can they deploy? I actually, listened to, it was a meeting that was sent to me, a recording of a meeting where it was, talking about transgender policy, and we have these top brass having meetings talking about, how do we deal with this? When can, if someone is transitioning, well, they have to wait 18 months until they're in their preferred gender and then they can deploy. So again, I think that my main concern with that, it's not necessarily, it's more so a logistical situation where should the military be spending time working those things out when they should be spending time on other things?
Just one thing, though, I just have to point out, this is the exact same thing they say about pregnant women trying to serve. My father, he was an obstetrician in the Navy. A huge part of his job was providing maternal care for, women that got pregnant while they were in the Navy. So I hear what you're saying. I don't think transgender people are the only people that need accommodations to serve. So I think what you're saying is 100% reasonable. I think all of us here would agree. Women should probably, pregnant women should probably not be on a frontline combat role for, but logistics, half the jobs in the military are logistics. I think there are solutions here if we're willing to, think through this that make everyone happy. And I just, I think it's worth exploring that as Americans.
Before we close out, we have a few fun predictions to end on. TikTok returning to the App Store before 2026 is trading at a 93% chance of happening on the predictions market app Kalshi, our sponsor for this app. Do you think it is that likely that Trump and the tech titans will let TikTok back onto the App Store?
Phenomenally, overwhelmingly likely. It's bad policy. Completely disagree with it. I think we need to take China seriously, but I think it's always smart to bet on where the money goes.
I agree, 100%.
Egg prices going up in Trump's first month in office is trading at 83% yes. Do you think Trump can bring grocery prices down? Maddie?
Absolutely. We can attribute that the increase in egg prices almost solely to the bird flu, the avian flu, which is sweeping across the nation. I think that it's going to take time, but it's absolutely going to happen.
I don't know. I see some of these decisions coming out. I think inflation is going to make a comeback personally. So I'd take it. I think that's going to go up.
RFK becoming Trump's Secretary of Health and Human Services, his cousin's letter notwithstanding, is trading at 77% yes. Too high, accurate, inaccurate.
Oh gosh, I am just so split on this. I would say it's too high.
Really, Brianna? What do you think?
Yeah.
I don't think if I were writing a book, Profiles in Courage, I don't think Schumer would be in that book. So I think if someone is threatening everybody, Senate Democrats, with a giant amount of money, I think he's probably going to fold.
Okay, so you think that RFK Jr. does get
I would strongly bet
get
on
through?
that. Yes.